Welcome to the REI Agent, a holistic approach to life through real estate. I'm Mattias, an agent and investor.
And I'm Erica, a licensed therapist.
Join us as we interview guests that also strive to live bold and fulfilled lives through business and real estate investing.
Tune in every week for interviews with real estate agents and investors.
Ready to level up?
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the REI Agent. Mattias here. I wanted to talk a little bit about my morning. I kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed, if you will. I didn't sleep well. Got up at 3:30. I did fall back asleep. It was after 5. So maybe I got another hour or so by the time I went to the couch. Sometimes I, have to listen to a YouTube video or something. I had a fun YouTube video about somebody 3D printing a chair. That got me to sleep. Thank you, YouTube creator. But anyway, I really just didn't feel great. I kind of wanted to nap, over lunch instead of going to the gym. I often go to the gym over lunch, but at the same time, I knew that if I went to the gym, I was going to feel better. I was going to have a better rest of the day. It would reset me, and it did. I went, and it worked. And it kind of reminded me of, this isn't like a brand new thing or episode or anything like that, but Dr. Andrew Huberman had David Goggins on his podcast, and he was referring to the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. Sorry, probably butchering that. A part of the brain that he found was responsible for, or basically grew every time you did something you didn't want to do, and shrunk every time you didn't do the thing. And that it's just labeling that it is very much so willpower, all that stuff is very much so a muscle you exercise. And I think it kind of is helpful to know, and it's empowering. I think it's, it kind of boils down to having that ownership in your life and taking full control and not making excuses and really this is all up to me. If I wake up and I'm out of shape and I am unhealthy, it's from giving in to not wanting to do those things. And I have control. I can build that self-control in by exercising it and knowing that, each decision you make will feed or weaken that part of the brain. And so I think it's just another really cool example of how, we have that power. If anybody knows who David Goggins is, David Goggins is a freak of nature. He has done insane things. He was a Navy SEAL. He also graduated from the Ranger School. I think he's one of the only people, maybe the only people that have done both. Both are extremely hard and difficult to do. And he's since set records for pull-ups and has run ultra marathons, hundreds of miles at a time. He meanwhile became basically paralyzed with pain and all this stuff. And he has to stretch something crazy, 8 hours a day to be able to do anything. And somehow still goes out and runs these crazy long races. And then a lot of people would say that doesn't sound like a good thing, which they might be right to a certain degree. But I think ultimately he's the shining example of somebody who has strengthened that muscle in the brain, that cortex, to, do what you don't want to do. And, hearing that again is a good reminder, get back in the cold plunge. It's been something that I have enjoyed. And sometimes I don't know if I ever look forward to it, but I do look forward to the feeling I get after I get out. But anyways, just, I think it's a good reminder to constantly put in front of yourself things that you don't necessarily want to do and you push through and get it done. And that will make that part of your brain stronger. And Huberman also linked it to basically your not will to live, but it somehow linked it with like your being, somehow, I'm butchering this now, but he somehow linked it to like your like longevity. That's the word I was looking for. So I don't know if that's what he meant necessarily. I can't remember exactly the direct quote, but it does make sense that if you push yourself to, push your body to continue to be healthy, you resist the temptation to only eat junk food, which our body craves and wants, and eat that broccoli you don't want. that you might, live longer because of that. But today we have a great guest. We have Kelley Skar. Kelley has had a long career in real estate, has gone through being a solo agent, team lead, brokerage owner, back to a solo agent, and mostly is focused now on coaching. But that means he had great nuggets to learn from in this episode. So you definitely don't want to miss this. If you enjoy this content, again, please share, please like and comment, and help us grow. Leave reviews wherever you listen. And that will just, again, help us get to more people, help us grow, help us be able to continue giving you this awesome content. So without further ado, here we have Kelley. Welcome back to the REI Agent. I'm here with Kelley Skar. Kelley, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you guys reaching out. I'm really excited to share a few things that I know with you.
I'm so excited. I have to ask. So growing up, I was a huge Lion King fan. Did you get a lot of Lion King references?
Yeah, I guess when the movie came out, like I'm old, right? I'll be 51 this year. So, I can't remember how old I was when the movie first came out, but I think I was well through middle school and probably into high school by the time the movie came out.
So it wasn't really as impactful for your sphere as it was.
Not really, no.
Kelley, you have had a long career in real estate. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Long career, man. So, I was a welder before I got into real estate. So I was in the trades for about 10 years.
Okay.
I moved away from the province that I live in now. So I'm in Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada. We're the westernmost province in Canada.
Okay.
That's where I grew up in BC, and I left the small town that I grew up in 1998. I moved to Edmonton, Alberta, which is the next province over. Edmonton, home of the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, Wayne Gretzky, all that storied history, right? So I lived there for 5 years, got into the trades, had a girlfriend break up with me. My brother called me up and said, "What are you still doing in Edmonton? There's nothing left for you here. Why don't you move to Calgary?" Calgary, home of the Calgary Flames, Calgary Stampede, among other things, basically the hub of oil and gas. It's oil and gas country in Alberta. So much like Texas, right?
Sure.
So I wound up moving to Calgary and spent another couple of years in Calgary. As you know, in real estate, I wound up meeting my future wife in 2004. Got married in 2006, had twins by 2008. And during that time, decided that I wanted to get out of welding altogether and go a different direction. So I had basically two options. Option A was to, go and get into debt and go back to school and, have a $40,000 or $50,000, student loan. Or the other option was I'm going to keep working and I'm going to go to realtor night school 3 days a week. I think it was Tuesdays and Thursdays and evenings, and then half a day or all day on Saturday, get my real estate license. My dad was a realtor for 25, 26 years. Okay. I've got a sister-in-law in Edmonton. She's been in real estate now for 30 years. So we kind of had this, I had this kind of path that was already there in front of me. So that's obviously the path that I chose. I got licensed in 2007. We had our twins in 2008. I went full-time in April of that year. Kids were born in September. So there was no plan B. It was all plan A, burn the boats. And here I am like 18 years later, right?
Well, now I have a lot of follow-up questions.
Let's do it.
The first one is, I made the joke about it being more efficient to have twins. Like, is there any truth to that, or was that a joke that you don't make to people that have twins?
No, I used to say that myself. Because we had a boy and a girl, and
Okay.
the joke was, how you have this $1 million family. I'm like, $1 million family. Like, do I get $1 million? Because I know it's going to cost me $1 million, right? So no, I don't get $1 million, but it was, I guess you could call it efficiency. Sure. Yeah.
I know. My wife was not amused when I suggested, we had any control of it, that we should just have twins next, and we'd have our 3 and be done. But it didn't work out that way, and I think I'm sure there were some extra struggles as well to have that efficiency along the way, especially when you're little.
It's funny. I've had that question a lot. So has my wife, and the way that we look at it is it's very simple. I mean, if you have one child, we would always ask the question, well, how many kids do you have? Well, we have one. It's like, okay, well, is it rough with one kid? Well, yeah, I mean, it's got its challenges. Yeah. Well, it's the exact same with 2, right? Luckily for the both of us is that there was 2 of us and 2 of the kids. I've always been a very hands-on father. We knew we had friends that had twins that were, I think, 5 or 6 years older than our guys. And the dad worked in the trades. He would come home at the end of the day, just very, traditional, very classic. He wouldn't do a lot around the house. He wouldn't really help out with the kids. That was the wife's job. That was her role within the household, right? Whereas I was the exact opposite. I was getting up in the middle of the night, helping with feedings, changing diapers, wrapping the kids up in the burrito, taking them out for walks, giving my wife breaks, like very hands-on. So,
sure.
2 kids, 2 parents, kind of lucked out, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you being hands-on as a father in real estate, in a new career in real estate, if I'm remembering the timeline right, kind of leads me to my next question is that your father was in real estate. And was that something that you're like, I'm never going to do that? And then you finally got convinced after going through welding for 10 years, or was there any kind of that element of, that's my dad's world, I want to create my own thing, or how'd that work out for you?
Great question. When I got my real estate license, I called my dad. I'm like, hey, Dad, I got my real estate license. And his response was, do you want me to pay for your therapy now or later? Because he knew the business, right? My dad got into real estate later in my life. And so I didn't really look at what he was doing as something that I wanted to do. It wasn't like, I'm going to go into real estate. I'm going to get my license when I'm 18, yada, yada, like that. Just never really happened. People would ask, well, what does your dad do? And my answer was always like, oh, he sells real estate. I never really had this pull towards that, but I did have this gift. I had a teacher tell me this. I think it was a science teacher back in grade 9 or grade 10. She would write on my report card just about every single year that I had her in school, Kelley has a gift for the gab. Meaning I just wouldn't shut the hell up in school, right? So, but yeah, no, I mean, I've had this natural affinity towards sales. I felt like I was very good with people. I was, very personable, outgoing, and it was just a matter of kind of learning what you needed to learn in order to be successful in this business, which it turns out there's a very steep learning curve if you really have no idea. If you spent 10 years in the trades with no sales training, the learning curve becomes very, very steep, and you're either going to swim or you're going to sink, right? There is no in between.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of brings up another question. And you are now a coach as well. So I'm curious about your advice to people. And is the burn the fleet method recommended when you're getting into real estate? Or is it case by case or personality based, or, like the thought of just, jumping 100% in, that's your only income source, even though it can take a couple of years for it to get rolling. What's your approach there?
I can tell you, I mean, I was part-time for the first year that I was in the business. When I finally got to a point where I felt like I was going to be able to swim, that I wasn't going to sink, that's when I pulled the pin. And that's when I burned the boats. And that's when I went all in on things. My suggestion to people is like twofold. Number one, have at least 6 to 12 months of like full on household expenses in the bank.
Yeah.
It's your household expenses. in the bank. Okay. So now you're taken care of. You don't have any worries there for the next 12 months. The other thing is that this is the second part of it, is to have at least 6 months of expenses for your business in the bank as well. People have they conflate the two, right? You hear this a lot from coaches. They say, well, you got to have at least 6 months worth of expenses before you get into the business. And they don't really specify, is it household expenses or is it business expenses? I'm like, you should have 6 to 12 months of household expenses so that you can feed the family, you can put the roof over the head, you can put the clothes on the back, you can go on holiday, right? And at the same time, have at least 6 months of business expenses so that you can generate the leads, learn the business that you need to learn, and learn how to convert leads and, do all of the other things that we do in terms of marketing and whatnot. So that would be probably the two biggest pieces of advice. And then as far as jumping into the business, whether you're part-time and your plan is to go full-time, what I know about myself is I've had times in my life and my business where I'm pulled in 4 or 5 different directions. And I've got 4 or 5 different contracts out there. I'm working with 4 or 5 different companies. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I can tell you that the work ultimately will start to suffer because you're pulled in too many different directions. If you are sitting in an office 9 to 5 and you're grinding it out in real estate at the end of the day, and then on the weekends, something is going to give. It has to. You're not going to be able to sustain that. You're not David Goggins. You're not out there running 200-mile. I don't. Did you see his footage on Instagram here last week? He ran a 200-mile ultra marathon.
Oh my gosh, no, not this supposed to be.
But most people are not that, right? So something is going to have to give. So if your plan is to go into real estate and you want to eventually do it full time, you've got to have a plan. You've got to figure that out.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I agree. I worked, I was a full-time, I was a behavior specialist for a few years when I was getting started, and the schedules were conducive. And I think there is going to be a hustle phase, where if you can stay focused, that's probably the hardest thing, is like if you are laser focused and this is going to be the thing that I'm going to do, and you're willing to sacrifice a little bit. We didn't have kids at the time, so that helped. Right. It's smart to realize that you're not, there are stories about people getting in and making a ton of money right away. But for a lot of people, it takes time to build the sphere, and it takes time to get people to trust you to do the business. So, that's great. Let's go back to now you're getting started in real estate sales. You got twins. What was your progression from there? I know you mentioned that you are a team lead.
I was
a team lead at one time. Owned a brokerage. Yeah. Tell me about how that transitioned and how you were going through that process.
Yeah. So I wound up as rookie of the year for my office in 2008. I think I did 8 deals that year, which was good enough to be rookie of the year. Believe it or not.
That could be hard to do your first year.
No, really, it can. It was the goal was just, my wife and I kept saying this to each other, just a deal a month, just a deal a month. And at that time, I think the average commission that I was making was around $7,000 or $8,000 per end. And so, you start to do the math on that, and, $100,000 even back then, after expenses and taxes and brokerage fees and all the rest of it, like, you're lucky if you wind up with $5K in your pocket at the end of the month. And then you've got to feed kids and your wife and mortgage and, vacations, all the rest of that kind of stuff. So, going into 2009, I was going into, what was going to be my very first full 12 months in the business. And I, put together some goals, like a pseudo business plan. It wasn't really a plan. My plan was I was going to go out and do a pile of open houses and learn how to convert people. And the goal was to do double what I did in 2008. So get to 16. By the end of 2009, I had actually tripled my business. So I went from 8 to 24. And it was built, everything that I did was based off of open houses. I didn't know a lot of people in Calgary. I'd only lived there since 2004. So I was only there for 4 or 5 years, 4.5 years. And so I did not have a big friend base at all. My wife, however, did, and she was a teacher. And she did not want me to mix business and pleasure. She didn't want me to help her teacher friends buy real estate, and which was really kind of a pain in the butt, because what I know about teachers is they absolutely love real estate and they love to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
So I was really bummed about the fact that I couldn't, work my way in there. And so I had to figure out another way. And so the best and highest return that I could get would be on open houses. And I started failing quite miserably. I got hooked up with kind of the wrong person. Not that he was the wrong person. He just had the wrong product for me to sell. It was, 7 figures. It was on the western edge of the city. It was in a very tough time, 2008, 2009. Obviously, we know what happened in, financial markets back in 08. And, the market was really starting to be affected in 2009. And so I had to shift gears and figure out, how I was going to actually start to generate leads. And luckily I was able to figure it out very, very quickly in 2009. And my primary lead source came directly from open houses. 2010, 2011, I shifted gears and went most of my business went online. So that's when I started doing a video blog. Have you ever heard of Ian Watt?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so Ian Watt is like the OG of video blogging. Okay. This is a guy that was a realtor, still a realtor in downtown Vancouver, British Columbia. He got a flip cam in 2006 at an event that he was at, and he started filming videos very similar to what Gary Vee was doing with Wine Library back in the day. And he got really well known for, setting his camera up in his car, and he had this whole intro and he would talk about the market, and he was somewhat polarizing, but also very charismatic. And he wound up building a business off of this. And I found the guy in like 2008, 2009. I called him up and I just asked him for a piece of advice. And his advice was at the time, he says, you don't try to be something to everybody. Don't try to be everything to everyone. Just be something to someone. Right. And so that was a piece of advice that he gave me. I kind of took that and I ran with it and, developed this video blog. I was one of 6 agents in our entire marketplace at the time, over 5,000 realtors that actually had a video blog. Started to get a lot of traction with it. 2010, 2011, business was flat, about 24 deals per year for each of those years. But 2012 was the breakthrough. That's when everything that I had done online up until that point, like adopting Twitter, really getting into Facebook, obviously leveraging YouTube. That's when everything really started blogging. That's when everything really started to kick off. And so 2012, I wound up doing 42 transactions. 2013 is when I started the team. So, built a team, had no idea what I was doing. I did not know how to lead people. Again, very steep learning curve. I went to a conference in South Carolina. It was a Boomtown conference. Every top team leader there had a business coach. And I came back from that, hired my very first coach. Our very first call, she asked me one question. She said, "Why do you want a team?" And I've obviously said this so many times. It's like, it kind of rolls off the tongue. And I said, this isn't exactly what I said, but I'm paraphrasing. I said, well, I want to leverage other human beings to be able to make more money. And she said, that's the wrong answer. And when you figure out the right answer, call me back. That was our first coaching call the first day.
That's it.
That was it. That was and I just dropped like $1,000 and US. And I'm like, what do you even, she's like, when you figure it out, call me back. So it took me a couple of weeks. I called her back. And then that's when we tore everything down and started to rebuild mission, vision, values, all that kind of stuff.
Once
the right answer? That though, what's that?
What was the right answer?
The right answer was that you should be focused on building people and systems and not leveraging them to pad your pocket. If you focus on building systems first and then people, the money will come. And that was the right answer. And that's truly what my focus needed to be. And
sure.
That's really what drew me towards coaching ultimately. I mean, sure. Having a team, building that team at one point, I think I was up to like 6 or 7 agents on the team. So every week I was meeting with realtors. Every week we were having our own meetings outside of the brokerage meetings. Every week I was training. Every week I was coaching. I was mentoring. And I'll tell you, man, that's what got me up in the morning. I just loved doing that sort of thing. I didn't love the sales side of things. And I loved being able to have these really high level, in-depth conversations with agents and teaching them how to build their business. And so 2014, we had a banner year. By the end of 2015, I had decided that I was going to merge my team with a small boutique brokerage in Calgary, which we did. So I think I brought over 4 agents at the time. They had 5 agents or 6 agents. So we grew from, up to a 10 agent team. We ran like that through the entirety of 2016 as a team. I think we did over 300 transactions that year, wow. which was pretty outstanding. And then by the end of 2016, we decided to shift gears and go from a team-based brokerage to a more traditional style. So we're an independent real estate company, but we wound up growing that company from 2017 to 2019. I think we went from 9 to 115 agents.
Wow!
So it was the growth curve there was exceptional. We were one of the fastest growing brokerages in our city at the time.
Yeah, sounds like it. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's not what you're doing anymore, right? Now, did you say you went back to being a solo agent?
Yeah, so I exited out of that company. I wound up landing at the Balloon for about 6 months. I was there, and then we decided that we were going to make this move out of Calgary and move to Kelowna, BC. So pack up our family and sell the house and make the move out here. So I decided to join EXP. I was there for, I think, 2 years, and then wound up back at the Balloon. During this whole time frame, though, I had been coaching. So I'd worked for a couple of coaching companies throughout that time frame. I obviously was doing my own thing with my own clients as well. And that's what my primary focus is today. I'm still licensed in Calgary. I'm licensed here in Kelowna, so I've got licenses in 2 provinces. I've got a listing in Calgary. It's co-listed with an agent there. It isn't my primary focus. My primary focus is on building community and helping agents build a bigger, more robust business that they can be proud of, and one that isn't going to completely suck all of their time away.
Sure. Yeah.
So I've been there. I've done that.
Absolutely.
2 kids at home. My wife would just, she would get upset because I would jump and run. The phone would ring and I'd be out the door.
Yeah.
Right? Finally, eventually she got wise to, kind of the business and the lingo. And she said to me one time as I was heading out the door to go meet these people that I'd never met, she said, "Well, have you met these people before?" "No." "Well, are you going to qualify them? Did you qualify them?" Like, this is my wife, the teacher, asking me like a sales question. "Did you qualify these people?" I'm like, "Well, no, I'll qualify them when I get," and she said this to me, and this is what really made me stop and think. She said, "Don't you think that your family deserves your time and attention? Like, who are these people that you're going out to run out and meet? They don't know you. You don't know them. You don't even know if they can buy a house or not. And you're jumping and running." And that really gave me pause. That really kind of snapped me out of it. And I was like, okay, I've got to fix some stuff. I got to figure out how to better qualify people over the phone. And, that's where a lot of the sales training and stuff, the things that I started looking into, that's where that really started to come into play. And I started to figure some things out. This is, everything pre-AI, right? So, still had the internet, but, pre-artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I think there's nothing harder for me than being like, you have something urgent happening in a deal. There's a big deal. That your client is just worked up, stressed out, and you got to figure it out. Right. But you're also like around your family and your kids, and they don't get it. And it's just really hard to like, because also often it's like, I'm shooting a message and I'm waiting for a response, and then I can be present, and then it's like back to stress. And it's like, how do you handle and deal with all that? It can be incredibly hard. And it's probably something that you can't fully resolve, but is that something you were able to find strategies for?
Yes and no. That specific situation is incredibly tough. Like you said, you're in the middle of a transaction. It's very hard for you just to shut off and say, "Nope, sorry, I'm not taking any more calls. I'm not responding to any more text messages." I think so that situation, the strategy that I would deploy is to make sure that my wife knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And, my kids are not going to be able to know exactly what's going on. So it's going to really be up to my partner to relay what's happening with me to my kids. Hey, listen, daddy's got to work right now. It's only going to take him a little while. His attention's going to be turned for a little bit, and, just give him some space and then he'll be back. Right. And so that took a long time, because a lot of it was, I would be doing that thing. I'd be at a soccer game and I'd be typing those text messages, and my wife would look at me and she would be like, "What are you doing? Like, we're here watching your kid play soccer. Like, why are you on your," and she would always say, like, "You're always on your phone. Like, are you addicted to that thing?" I still hear this today. "I think you're addicted to that thing." I'm like, "No more than you, babe. Like, I don't know what you're talking about." That's always my comeback. She's like, "You're gaslighting me." So if you're in this situation, if you're in real estate and you've got a partner and you've got kids, you have to be very transparent with your partner. You have to tell them exactly what's going on. "Babe, this deal is falling apart. Remember, I put that together just like 2 days ago. Yeah. Like the one that I was up until 11 o'clock at night putting together. Yeah, I remember. Okay, well, it's in danger of falling apart. And I know we're headed out to, our son's soccer game, but I just need a little bit of leeway here in order for me to be able to save this thing and be able to put it together. Like, know that I'm here. I will be present, but I just need a little bit of leeway." Like when I would say things like that to my wife, it was great, because she just wanted to be communicated to. She just wanted to know what was going on, instead of me expecting her to know what was going on. "Well, I'm on my phone. I'm working. Can't you see that I'm working?"
Right.
She doesn't know that I'm working. She has no idea what's going on. Right. She doesn't have any idea of the importance of what this is. Like, what if this is the only deal that I've done in the last 60 days? Right. Because there's a lot of agents that are in that situation right now. Mm. And so they feel the pressure to be able to try to save that deal, to put that thing together so that they can make the mortgage payment, so that they can put the food on the table.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a delicate balance. My biggest piece of advice is to make sure that you're over communicating.
That's really, really good advice. And I think that is often one of the biggest pain points, is that, I'm so wrapped up in this problem that I don't do a great job communicating to my spouse that there is a problem. And then she can maybe help combat, like, that. It's really hard. Kids don't understand, like, if you're on the phone, like, I have no ability to them trying to, like, mouth something to me or whatever, like trying to communicate, like, "Hey, I want to watch TV," or whatever they want to say to me. It is like my mind's going to explode. Like, I can't hear either of the people. And the clear communication, I think, is definitely a really good advice for that situation. And
because your kids don't know. I mean, my kids didn't. Even today, my kids are 16. They'll be 17 in September. I mean, there's times where I'm in the office, my son will just walk into the office. I'm like, I look at him, like, the look that's on my face is like, "Dude, like, what are you doing?" Like, "I'm on the phone." He's like, oh, sorry, dad. Right. And he's saying that out loud. I'm like, "I'm on the phone." Sometimes my wife, like, once a week, she'll work from home. Like, she's got her own office, but every Friday she'll take a couple of calls on like I said, she's a psychologist. And so she'll take a couple of calls on Friday, and the kids are on summer break right now. And so, they, for whatever reason, are unaware that she's working, that she's on these calls. And, my son will go into the shower, and, like, he'll connect his phone to his Bluetooth speaker and crank the speaker up. And my wife is in the office going, "Oh my God," like, the person on the other end could totally hear, because everything's paper thin. Right. So it's, like I said, the kids don't know. So it's important that the partner knows what the hell is going on, so they can effectively communicate that to the children.
Yep.
Right.
That's great.
That's what you don't want to have is your kids remembering you as being the one that was always on their phone. Right.
Yeah. Or constantly working, constantly, like, not able to, like, I mean, what I'm describing is, I hope not all the time, but just kind of the worst of my parenting. Like, if, like, I'm trying to balance parenting and problems, not just real estate. Like, I mean, for the most part, I can shut off and I can, respond to people. I'm not responding to people all through the evening, text messages, et cetera. But when those issues arise, I feel like that's like where I look back. I'm like, man, I hope they don't just remember these like moments and that,
Right.
And I'd love to have them, have fun in the business. Cause I try to take them to do some things every once in a while, and they get to come see some cool properties or meet some people, which I hope there's some of that balance as well, where they can maybe see the flexibility, all that kind of stuff, and have that be their memories from growing up.
Yeah, I had that as well. I brought my kids on showings. I would bring them to, as long as the properties were vacant, sometimes they could come inside with the client, and as long as the client was cool with it.
Yeah.
We used to have rental properties in Calgary, so they would, come into the rental property and help us out with, a cleanup and all that kind of stuff. So they got to see the sweat equity side of it as well. So I think that all of that's important, 100%. The thing that is the most important thing is when you know that you can put your phone down, put your devices down, and go throw the football. Like my son last night, we finished dinner. He's like, Dad, he plays senior football this year. This is his last year before he's like potentially going to college to play. And he's like, Dad, will you come out to the field and throw with me? And my wife was like, well, why don't you let your dad rest? Like you guys I'm leaving tomorrow. Like, you've got tomorrow. You guys can go out tomorrow. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like you finish up the dishes, give me 10 minutes. Let me finish this thing that I'm working on and I'll come out. Right. Like I don't want him to feel like I didn't have the time to put down doing what I was doing to go spend time with him. I want him to remember those times. Like my dad was willing, and my daughter as well. My dad was willing to come out to the field and throw with me. He was willing to put down, because look, I'm modeling this behavior, right? This is something that they're not only going to remember, it's the legacy piece. They're not only going to remember it as later in their adolescence into their young adulthood, but they're also going to see this type of behavior when they're their own parent, right? When they're parenting their own children. And so if I'm modeling the behavior where I'm connected to these freaking devices all the time, right? They're gonna they learn what they live, and they're going to see that. That's how they're going to wind up parenting. But if I can put the devices down and I say, yes, absolutely, let's go, right? Let's just go have fun. Let's go do the thing. Hopefully I'm modeling that right behavior so that they can be the same type of parent and improve upon that, right? Constantly making improvements. I mean, I think I've improved from where my upbringing was. I had a pretty damn good upbringing, but I think I've been able to make some improvements. And I'm hoping that my kids feel the same way, that they had a really good upbringing, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, another thing I hope they are imparted with is, my kids my oldest is in school. She's going to the third grade, and she, her world is like, I want to be a teacher because like they're in charge. That's how her brain works. And I'm not saying I'm never going to discourage her from being a teacher, but I also think it's really important because she's not going to get this in school, to see the other side of the world. Like you look at the rich dad, poor dad kind of thing, and to see what it's like to have your own business, to kind of set your own schedule, and the gifts and the good and the bad with that. But also you mentioned the rentals, like having them. We've had them, do flips or help clean flips up, or help be around us while we're kind of finishing up a flip, or rentals, all that kind of stuff, burst strategies. So and it's kind of weird for me, not having grown up with wealthy family or anything like that, to then also see how that's going to change their life. There's good and bad potentially with that as well, and how they perceive the world. We have a very large trailer park on the bus route that my daughter goes to. So it's about, I would say, 95% of the bus is filled with people from the trailer park. Okay. And then there's like 3 white girls that get off at the country club.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just, I'm like, there's dynamics like that. You're just like, how is that going to play out for them? And right. Us being married to women of psychology, you can't help but think about those things.
Oh, 100%. And I've got a daughter. It's funny. Your daughter wants to be a teacher. Mine wants to be a psychologist.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. She's taking AP psychology next semester. So,
Wow.
And law. And she wants to marry those two things. So I'm like, yes, 100% all in.
Cool.
You go. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious if you would have, you obviously probably have a lot of golden nuggets, but if you have one that you'd want to share to our listeners, it could be for people getting started or just, in general for real estate sales, what would that be?
Well, there's a ton of stuff that I could talk about. I think the biggest thing that I want to talk about, that I have been talking about at length for probably the last year or so now, is artificial intelligence, AI. I mentioned it a little bit earlier in the podcast, but this is something that I wrote an article. We've got a publication up here in Canada called Real Estate Magazine, and I wrote an article, and essentially I was making the case for artificial intelligence potentially replacing one side of the real estate transaction, and that being the buyer's agent. And I think I made a pretty darn good case for it. It should, if artificial intelligence doesn't have people freaked out, it should, especially in the business world, not just in real estate, but every business. I think it was Microsoft here a couple of months ago just laid off like 4,000 programmers or something crazy. Mm-hmm. And why did they do that? Well, because they're utilizing their own artificial intelligence to replace those jobs. That is going to continue to happen. And I think the agents that really start to get in tune with and start to embrace artificial intelligence are going to be the ones that grow and scale their business the fastest. I just finished teaching a course inside the RE/MAX network. It was a 4-week course that I put together, and it basically took them from prompt engineering all the way to building presentations inside of certain AI technologies, where you put in a prompt and the entire basically slide deck is built with you within seconds, to showing them how to utilize avatar style videos and uploading that content into your social channels, all the way into utilizing AI as an assistant to help you with strategic initiatives and strategically grow your business. So I think agents that they're not just going to ChatGPT to help them build out their listing descriptions, mm-hmm. but they're actually starting to learn it and starting to embrace it as part of their business model. Those are going to be the ones in the next 3 to 5 years that will surpass those agents that are like top 1%, top 5%, top 10% in their marketplace. We've got a guy here in our office, young guy. He started door knocking. I showed him how to do a market evaluation, how to have AI do a CMA for him, and then how to take that CMA and put it into another piece of AI technology to build out a presentation. And it absolutely blew his mind. His goal, his focus is to build his database by 7 people every single week. So he goes out, he door knocks, he wants to get 7 people into his database every single week. And so how does he do that? One of the things that he offers is to do a market evaluation. So think about that. Like the average CMA that he does takes him 2 to 3 hours to perform. Yeah. If he's putting 7 people into his database every single week and all 7 say, yes, give me a CMA. Well, that's half of his week right there is eaten up in doing CMAs. Well, the CMA, the AI can do the CMA in minutes. The amount of time that it's going to take you, the most amount of time that it's going to take you is to find the comparables inside of your matrix system and then upload them into the AI and give it the right prompt. The AI will take over and do the rest of the work. So when he saw that, he was like, holy crap, I can do these all in 200 minutes instead of 20 hours, right? Absolutely, 3 hours versus 20. Yeah. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely not going anywhere. That cat's out of the bag.
100% it is. Yeah, I've got a good friend that's he's in IT security. He has a company in Silicon Valley, and the stuff that he tells me, man, he's like, he told me 2 years ago that they were working on ChatGPT 5. And this is when 3.5 was out, right? He's like, they're already working on GPT 5. I'm like, well, what are they working on? And everything that he told me they were working on is exactly what it is today.
Came out.
Like, yeah, he's like, yeah. So I'm like, well, what are they working on now? He's like, ChatGPT 8, right? It's like, and he told me this story about, a couple of years ago. So there's like really 4 or 5 companies that kind of control the AI matrix, right? And these engineers, these scientists decided that they were going to perform an experiment. They were going to open the door, let the firewall open and see what happens with these AI models. And he was telling me, like, within minutes, these AI models were chatting back and forth with each other, and within a couple of hours had already created their own language. They were speaking to, I said, well, why did they create their own language? He said 2 reasons. Number 1, efficiency. Number 2, so that humans couldn't understand it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then I'm like, all right, Terminator, anyone?
Yeah. It can be incredibly scary. I mean, did you hear about the AI, I think it was an AI chat group that one of them ended up creating a cryptocurrency that was then also had like a marketing campaign or something, and it was worth, I forget how much, it was a lot, it was millions. Right. But you start piecing together, okay, this is how like this internet computer could also have power, like, right? They can take that crypto and turn it into US dollars somehow,
right?
Maybe by paying somebody to do it. But
we're seeing AI generated art now, like music.
Yeah.
There was that group, air quotes group, that got put together, and it was there was no group. It was an AI generated musical group, and they had like a hit song. So whoever created the musical group wound up having this hit song, and it was like, I wanted to give my wife something completely different, something that I'd never given her before in our 19 years in marriage. And so I wrote her a song. So my AI, Carl, and I sat down, we wrote a song together, and then I put it into a piece of AI software, and I built out like the tune, and then found the AI voice that I wanted to sing the song, and I put it all together. I produced this whole thing, and I gave it to my wife as an anniversary gift.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could, back to like it being scary. I think at the same time, you not participating in it is not going to make it stop. So, like, I think it is pertinent to learn as best as you can, because it is rapidly evolving. I actually just I spent about $200 on a month worth of a community for automations and AI and everything. And I think I got that out of it. I don't know if I will continue for another month, but I think it's worth spending money. I think it's worth spending, having at least ChatGPT as, the $20 a month program. And if not doing the $200 a month, depending on how robust you're going with it all. So I definitely agree on that.
Yeah. If you're not on the train, this is not, and people call me, hyperbolic for saying this type of thing, but this is not the fax machine. It's not the cell phone. This is not social media. This is not what this is. This technology has the ability to replace entire industries while at the same time creating entire industries.
Yeah.
Right. So this, like everything before, where everybody said, oh, well, this is a disruption, this is a major Zillow, like whatever, call it whatever it is. All these things that came before, like this is not any of that. It is a complete game changer. I'm 100% convinced of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Do you have any AI books you recommend? I do want to pivot to the book question. If you have any favorite fundamental books that you think everybody should read, or just ones you're enjoying now.
You know what? I wish you would have. You would have asked me that at the beginning. I actually do have an AI book. It was the very first one that I read. I read it probably about a year and a half or so ago. I'll have to find it. Maybe you can put it in the show notes, but I'll shoot you a message afterwards, and you can kind of put it in the description. But that was an awesome book. Really kind of opened my eyes to assistants and agents, and prompting and all the rest of that kind of stuff. So I'll find that. I'll get it over to you. One book that I've read recently that I absolutely loved, which I thought was an amazing book. I think it's a must for any entrepreneur. It's a book called 10X is easier than 2X. 10X is easier than 2X. So I read that book in, I don't know, I think it took me less than a week, and I'm a pretty slow reader. But this was and my pages were all dog-eared and highlighted and all the rest of it. So, and it's a book that I usually recommend in my coaching as well. Anybody that is kind of stuck in this idea of, man, I want to grow my business and I just want to double. It's this whole mentality of, you know what, it's easier to go 10 times than it is just to try to double something. Right. So, and even if you don't get to 10X, but you're 4X, it's still better than 2X. Right. So that's kind of the premise of the book. But yeah, 10X is easier than 2X. Great read. Okay,
great. Awesome. Yeah, that's a good one. And the same author as Who Not How, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are some good books. Now, what about if people were interested in following you on social media? Where can they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. But if you want to get a hold of me and you want to have a conversation, find me on Instagram. So my Instagram handle is exactly my name there, KELLEYSKAR. So it's at KELLEYSKAR, Kelley Skar. Easiest way to find me on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kelley, thanks so much for being on the show. It's been an honor.
My pleasure, man. It was great that you guys reached out. I had a blast. This has been a great conversation.
Thanks for listening to the REI Agent.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit subscribe to catch new shows every week.
Visit reiagent.com for more content.
Until next time, keep building the life you want.
All content in the show is not investment advice or mental health therapy. It is intended for entertainment purposes only.